What is up, guys? So I had a 6T user was asking me to compare the 7 Pro. They're thinking about upgrading, and I do definitely think it's the time to upgrade. As you know, I'm a 7 Pro user myself, and I really enjoy using this phone, but it really comes down to a couple of things because as you're going to see, it's not a huge difference, but we will get to the essentials here. So if you are interested in picking up both of these phones, the price on the 7T right now is around 500 bucks. Again, you can find one on eBay for a little bit cheaper, and also the 6T is around 300 bucks. I will put those links down below from where I got mine. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So hardware wise, what you'll notice is, of course, the 7 Pro is definitely a bit bigger than the 6T. They both have glass and aluminum designs, and they both feel really premium in the hand, so you're not really losing out on anything there. So they both pretty much have the same button layout. You have your volume rocker, your mute switch, USB type C. These phones do not have a headphone jack, so if you we're thinking about getting one, just know that you do not have a headphone jack on either of these guys. Now, one of the most important things about both of these phones are the displays. So this is one of the biggest differences if you're upgrading from a 6T or you're thinking about upgrading. So you have an AMOLED display on both of these guys. So on the 7 Pro, you have a 6.67 inch display, and you have a 1440p display, 516 for the PPI. It's HDR10 plus and 90 hertz. On the 6T, you have a 6.41 inch display, so a little bit smaller, and you also have a 1080p resolution, so lower resolution, 402 for the PPI. So the 7 Pro's display is really going to be the deciding factor for me, because you have a much higher resolution display. It's a bigger display, and also you don't have a notch like on the 6T. The resolution is higher and the PPI is higher, so it's just a beautiful display. And like I said, 90 hertz definitely does make a huge difference. You see all of the flagships and pretty much a lot of phones going the 90 hertz route now, so that is definitely one thing that I really love, is just how smooth the 7 Pro feels in the hand. Not saying that the 6T is not smooth at all, because it definitely is smooth, but if you're just really into content and stuff like that, you're really gonna love the 7 Pro, just because of the immersive experience you're gonna get with a full screen no notch display. So both of these phones run the latest versions of their operating system, Android 10, with the latest version of Oxygen OS, which is really awesome. You have the Snapdragon 855 on the 7 Pro, and you have the 845. So you're not gonna notice a huge difference. You have the Adreno 640 on the 7 and the Adreno 630. As far as performance, you're not gonna see a huge difference if you pull up these Geekbench scores. As you can see, you will get, of course, better scores on the 7 Pro, but in the real world, as you see, the 6T is keeping up with the 7 Pro really well. You do not have expandable storage at all on both of these phones. You have 128 gigs on both of these phones, as well as 6 gigs of RAM, so they're pretty much tied in that regard. But overall, when it comes to just navigating the OS and launching applications, both of these phones are super smooth. So again, you're not gonna notice a huge difference from what I've been seeing here. So the cameras are definitely a pretty respectable upgrade here. So on the 7 Pro, you have a 48 megapixel wide and 8 megapixel telephoto and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You can shoot in 4K 30 or 60 FPS. You have the little pop-up selfie camera that's 16 megapixels that shoots in 1080p. You have a dual camera setup on the 6T. It's a 16 megapixel wide and a 20 megapixel camera. So you also have 4K 30 or 60 FPS also, and you also have 16 megapixel front facing camera as well. So you get that extra camera on the 7 Pro, which is something that I really like. And if you're just into cameras, then you're really gonna like the 7 Pro. You just get better detail, and overall I just think you get better shots. I think dynamic range is better and color is slightly better as well. I do also think the same thing for video. I think you get sharper video on the 7 Pro as well. So I think that's a worthy upgrade here if you are considering the 7 Pro. Now you have stereo speakers on the 7 Pro, but it's just the tiny speaker up top, and it's better than nothing because on the 6T you do not have stereo speakers on here. but it is a slightly bit louder on the 7 Pro, and you have just a little bit more depth. But overall, they were both pretty much on par with each other, so not a huge difference. I wouldn't call that like a gigantic upgrade. So both of these phones have NFC, which is awesome as well. Now, battery life on both of these phones are really good. So you have a 4,000 milliamp battery on the 7 Pro with 30-watt fast charging. That is one of the things I really love about the 7 Pro, is how fast it charges. It charges really fast, so I kind of don't mind the lack of wireless charging on this flagship. So you have a 3,700 milliamp battery on the 6T with 20-watt fast charging, so it doesn't charge as fast as the 7 Pro. And of course, you don't have wireless charging on here. For battery life, you're gonna look at around 8 hours of screen on time on the 7 Pro, and I'm getting about that on the 6T as well. So really good battery life on the 6T on both of these phones. So these are two really awesome smartphones. Again, if you're thinking about upgrading, definitely I think the deciding factor is the display. If you're really content heavy on your phone, you're gonna absolutely love the display on the 7 Pro. The higher resolution, the 90 hertz, the more immersive experience when watching movies and all that stuff. It's just gonna be a great experience. So if you just want to save some money, I think you probably could save more money and get like a 7T Pro or even the OnePlus 8. I think that would be an even better upgrade if you want to just spend some extra money, if that is not, if the 7 Pro doesn't seem satisfying to you. So that's pretty much it. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.